Welcome back, my sweet dear friends. How are you doing? I hope this video finds you well. Super cold here in the Northeast. We actually had our first dusting of snow. Yeah, not the highlight of my week, but a lot of people were like, woo! Yeah, I'm like, bring on the sunshine. But I hope you are all doing really well. My name is Emmy, my husband is Paul, and this is our channel, The Frugal Money Saver. We are an early retirement, debt and mortgage-free couple living in the state of New York. And basically, we just show you through our videos how we live an abundant life, spending less money, and we encourage you to do the same. Today's video, we're going to be talking about a dilemma that each and every one of us faces, and that is the wasting of food. Not finishing food in time, it's got to go into the garbage. Letting food spoil, it's got to go into the garbage. Just this pattern of wasting food. I'm going to show you some great simple recipes using stuff I had, bits and pieces in my refrigerator and freezer, and then along the way I'm going to show you some food storage tips for the freezer, and I'm going to give you some helpful tips, I hope, to curb our food waste way down, because we're getting back to basics. With the rising cost of everything, we're getting back to the fundamentals, to the basics of saving money and living an abundant, blessed life, spending less. If you are new here, I invite you to click that subscribe button. Come on in and be part of our Frugal family. Make sure you click that notification bell, that little bell in the corner. Click and hold and go to all. This way, when we put out a new video, you will be alerted and you can come on over and watch us and spend some time with us, because we love to have you here. What we did before we started this video is we looked up some statistics. The average household wastes about $1,866 per year. That's on food that goes into the garbage. Overall, as a country, this was in 2020, $240 billion worth of wasted food in our country in a year. What are we doing? What are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong, and how can we fix this? How can we save money, and how can we make this right? Because it's just wasteful. It's really just wrong. So what we're going to start with is I'm going to start by showing you a real simple recipe that I just found, little odds and ends of vegetables and pieces of cheese, and what we made first thing in the morning to start our zero waste food day of cooking. Here's the recipe. This recipe, we're using up little bits of frozen vegetables. I have like a quarter bag of frozen spinach, a quarter bag of frozen broccoli. I've got some cottage cheese that has got to be used up, some eggs, cheese. This is going to be a delicious crustless quiche. What is so great about this is those little bits of vegetables. Yes, we could throw them in a soup, but let's make a brunch style quiche that will be perfect for a hearty weekend breakfast meal. I'm starting by sauteing the frozen broccoli and spinach in a little bit of olive oil. Now, what you want to make sure of is the water is out of the spinach. If there is any liquid, you want to drain that out. So I'm just heating it through so it defrosts and sautés for just a few minutes, but make sure you drain it if there's a lot of water in the pan. We sauteed our spinach and our broccoli, and I put it on the bottom of a greased pie pan. And I know a lot of people mix all their ingredients together in a quiche like this, but I like to layer mine. I just find it holds together just a little bit better. This is about a cup of loosely packed pepper jack cheese. Now in this bowl, I have my 4 eggs, and I'm just giving them a good whisking. To the eggs, I'm going to add my 1 cup, because that's what I had left over, of cottage cheese. So that's going to go right in there as well. I'm going to add a little bit of onion powder just to give this some good flavor. Sprinkling of garlic powder, but you add whatever seasonings you'd like, and some freshly ground black pepper. I don't add salt only because I feel the cheese has a lot of salt in it, but feel free at this point to add some salt if you'd like. Now I just mix this all together. This is coming together very quickly, very easily. Now we're just going to pour our egg mixture right on top. I am going to put this into a 375-degree oven, and I'm going to let it cook for about 45 minutes. And we will check it with a toothpick to make sure it is done. The quiche cooked for 40 minutes, and it came out perfectly. Pairing it with a side of fresh fruit, this will make an amazing breakfast, light lunch, even a light dinner. This was a total win. I love that the quiche was crustless because you know me and making crust. It isn't happening. So perfect recipe. It was so good. It was light. It was delicious. I used up that cottage cheese that I know was going to go bad if I didn't use it. And we used up those little packages of vegetables, some cheese and eggs. Perfect. Another tip I want to give you is one way we can save money is by doing without unnecessary ingredients in our recipes. Let me give you an example. We love homemade hummus, where you take a can of chickpeas and you mix it with tahini. Tahini is extremely expensive. Tahini is an ingredient, if you're not cooking with it all the time, can go bad, it can go rancid. It's sesame. What I have learned to do is if we want to make hummus, instead of the tahini, I use peanut butter. Okay, it doesn't have the amazing, amazing taste that the tahini offers, but it saves me money. And I'll tell you, every time I have bought tahini, it has spoiled on me before we can use up the jar. So not worth it. So those kind of ingredients that you may not always use in everyday cooking, see if you can sub it out with something that you do use every day. Now I want to share a complete meal using only leftovers. We were so tired of Thanksgiving turkey with the stuffing and the gravy, and I was just like, we need to use this up. So I just put together a quick little casserole, and I want to share that with you, and you could do this with any kind of leftovers. Just be creative. Here it is. We are using up some Thanksgiving leftovers in this recipe. I would say probably 1.5 cups of chopped turkey. I have some French fried onions from the green bean casserole left over. I have some of the green bean bake left over. And I have just a little tiny bit of stuffing. And we are going to make ourselves a Thanksgiving casserole. It's going to be super easy, and we're going to use up some of these ingredients so we don't end up wasting it, because at this point, no one wants turkey by itself, no one wants green beans by themselves, etc. You get in the drift, and it's time we need to use this up before they spoil. So I greased my casserole dish, and I put the turkey meat. This is all cold out of the refrigerator. Just a point I want to share is the soup that I made the green bean casserole out of was my homemade cream of mushroom. And I will link my homemade cream of soup. You can make cream of mushroom, celery, chicken, whatever you want, instead of like canned cream soups. Just because it's natural, it doesn't have any MSG, low in sodium. So I'll link that recipe for my cream of anything soup down below in the description box. We're just mixing the turkey and the green bean bake together. I'm just going to add about 1/4 cup of sour cream as well. And I'm going to mix that in just because I want to make sure this is going to be moist enough. Now you're going to be seeing this after your Thanksgiving leftovers are probably all gone. But I want you to remember this for Christmas or whenever you make a big meal. Look at your ingredients and see what you can do with them to incorporate them into a whole different meal. So now I'm going to take the leftover stuffing and I'm going to sprinkle that on top. I'm just going to crumble it a little bit too. This is like Thanksgiving in a bowl. This is going to be good. And now I have just a little bit of the French fried onions left. We're going to put those on top too. Why not, right? I'm going to cover it now, and I'm going to put it in a 375 oven for about 15 minutes, just to make sure everything is heated through. And we'll check it at that point and see if it's bubbly. So this cooked for about 20 minutes. Listen to that sizzle. That tells me it's heated all the way through. All right, this looks so good. And oh my goodness, this is hot. It's like a whole different meal now. And I'm not giving Paul the exact same thing. And I've just disguised a whole bunch of leftovers into an amazing casserole. So use what you have. This is going to be a delicious meal, hearty, warm. It was snowing here today, as you saw in the earlier photos. It's going to be perfect. That was amazing. It was so hearty, so good, and it didn't taste like the same thing we had been eating all along. It really, I know it was the same kind of ingredients, but when you mix them all together, they just took on a whole new dimension. It was really good. Now what I want to do is just show you how to prep some food for the freezer. And I also want to encourage you to do this, and I know a lot of you do it. Keep a freezer-safe container in your freezer. And anytime you have a little leftover vegetables, meat, stock, anything like this that you can make a soup or a stew out of, put it in that container in the freezer. And then bulk it up with a little bit of rice or a little bit of pasta or whatever grain you prefer. Great way to use up those leftovers. Here are just some quick freezer food storage tips that we want to share with you. It is time to get the rest of the turkey in the freezer now. I made almost a 15-pound turkey, and we were literally 6 people. And then I've been making my son lunch. I'm like, do you want more turkey? And we've been eating it, and now the leftovers need to be frozen. So what we did was, when we first cleaned the turkey, Paul took out the neck, he took out the gizzard. I don't keep the liver to make soup. I just find it makes the soup very bitter. Now what I'm going to do to add to this bag, to make a really delicious, rich turkey soup, I'm going to add the leg to this bag. Now I have enough in here to put this in the crock pot at a later date to make a delicious turkey soup. Now this is the carcass of the turkey. We froze this immediately. Paul took all the meat off of it, and we stuck this right in the freezer. And what I'm going to add to this is a thigh. And sorry about Dixie. And I'm going to put the thigh in with this. And again, this will make a wonderful crock pot soup. Another thing that I'm going to add to each bag is the skin. I am going to put that skin a piece in this bag, and I'm also going to put some loose pieces in this bag. It will give the stock so much flavor. I skim the fat off the top of my broth after it's done, but the flavor that comes out of that skin is amazing. So I've got 2 bags now that will go into the freezer ready to be made into soup. Now you can see we still have a big hunk of the breast meat. What I'm going to do is freeze that as well. This is a beautiful piece of meat to use in a casserole or something to that degree. So all that went in there. I'm going to give you a little hint. When you freeze plain pieces of meat like this, what I always do is take my leftover gravy and add this to the meat. Because what this will do is keep the meat moist. It will help to keep this meat from drying out. Get all that air out of there. And then when you go to cook this, you can put it in a pot, reheat it just like this, cut up the meat, and you have the makings for a wonderful casserole. Just a little tip to keep this meat moist while it's being frozen. And if you don't have leftover gravy, chicken or turkey stock would work perfectly. Just a little broth in there as well. I have just a bit of cranberries left over. And before they go bad, what I did was just wash them. I'm going to lay them out on this tray just like this so they freeze individually. Any of them that got too soft, I put in the compost. And what I will do is pop them in the freezer for maybe an hour or two. Take them out. We're going to put them in a plastic bag. What happens, especially with fresh food like this, it can turn. One bad cranberry can make the next cranberry go bad, and then before you know it, the whole bag is no good. So make sure you preserve this food in the freezer. Food is so expensive. We really need to learn to not waste it, myself included. So we're just going to freeze these cranberries, and then we can make muffins later. We can make cranberry sauce later, whatever it is we may feel we want. Lastly, what we want to do is just show you what we did with some leftover eggnog, cranberry sauce, and applesauce. Oh, so good. But before we get to that, let me tell you another idea. Designate a shelf in your refrigerator for leftovers. Don't let them get hidden behind the gallon of milk or pushed behind the pickle jar in the back. All your leftovers, designate one area for them to go in. So you remember them, you see them, and you use them. Now here is a super scrumptious recipe, Paul approved. The next zero food waste recipe we are going to make is some cranberry eggnog muffins. I have got leftover applesauce. I have got leftover eggnog. I make my cranberry sauce from scratch. I'm using fresh cranberries, and there's raisins in it and walnuts in it. And then we're going to need some flour, some cinnamon, a little brown sugar, baking powder, an egg. Super simple. It's a basic muffin recipe, but I'm mixing it up. Again, use what you have. Let's turn these leftover ingredients into gourmet quality treats. Now, the original recipe will be linked down below in my description box. But I'm going to show you the modifications I'm making. It called for a cup of cranberry sauce, which I have right here. It calls for 3/4 of a cup of milk. But we're going to use eggnog. How bad can it be, right? I mean, let's do this. So we're going to put in 3/4 of a cup of eggnog. I love to turn ordinary ingredients into something yummy, into something that no one would think of. It also calls for a 1/4 cup of oil, but I am going to put a 1/4 cup of my homemade applesauce in place of the oil. And I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Now, my cranberry sauce does have some sugar in it. It also called for a 1/4 or a 1/2 cup of white sugar as well, but I'm not putting that in. Now, the thing with muffins is a light hand. Once we add our dry ingredients, all we want to do is incorporate the wet and dry. Tough muffins come when we overmix. In this bowl, I have 2 cups of flour. I'm adding a tablespoon of baking powder. I'm going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and about a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. It calls for cardamom, but I don't have cardamom, and I think we're going to be fine without it. Now I'm just going to whisk this all together, get that all mixed, and I figure the oven is hot, so we might as well be making some muffins. Now I'm just going to incorporate the dry into the wet ingredients. You don't want to overmix muffin batter. We want to try to incorporate it. Oh, and there is flour a-flying. It's been a lot of days of cooking, hasn't it, Paul?
Oh, yeah. Every day.
A lot of cooking going on in our kitchen. We love that you come and spend time with us here. It's like I'm not cooking alone. I'm cooking for you all. So come have a cup of tea and a muffin. I have 12 regular muffin tins that I greased. And I also preheated the oven to 400 degrees. So now we're just going to fill our muffin tins. And now I'm just going to take a little turbinado sugar, which is sugar in the raw. I'm going to give each one a little sprinkling. Now I understand you're not going to have the same leftovers I am. You're not going to have the same foods in your refrigerator you need to use up as I do. But we can all share the common notion of going and taking those leftovers or those items that need to be used promptly and creating a new meal out of them. And that's exactly what we're doing. So I am going to put these in a preheated 400-degree oven for 20 minutes. These cooked for exactly 20 minutes. I tested them with a toothpick and it came out clean. They rose beautifully, except for this poor little guy right here. But that's going to be our tester muffin. Paul will taste that one and we'll see how they came out. They look beautiful. What I am going to do with these is I am going to freeze them to use throughout the month of December because it's a festive time. People drop by. I can pull a couple of these out of the freezer and they will be perfect. Now what I'm going to do is let them cool in the pan for 5 minutes and then allow them to finish cooling on the rack. Be careful when you remove them. The pan will be very hot. All right, we're here for the muffin taste test. Go ahead, Paul.
Here's the muffin.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Now be honest.
Let's try this. What's amazing is it's not sickly sweet, which I thought with the, with the applesauce and then the extra sugar and the eggnog, I thought it'd be sickly sweet. It's not. It's a nice muffin. It really is. What I'd like to do is slice one open, put a little butter in a frying pan and just crisp the inside spot.
Oh, that sounds good.
Fry both the top and the bottom and then eat it that way. But this is delicious. This really is good. What's neat is the cranberries have that sweet tang. It's like a double whammy. It's really good. This is great. For leftovers, what a way to use up leftovers. Highly recommend it.
Yes, Paul approved. I hope this video encouraged you. I hope it blessed you. I hope it just motivates you to get to the refrigerator, see what you have, look in your freezer, start using up those items that need to be used up before they spoil. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. You know how much we love to have you here. Today's question of the day, leave me a comment down below. What is your favorite way to use leftovers? Please encourage me. Please, what is a food that you know if you have leftover of, you're going to turn it into something else? I would love to know that. Thank you again for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. Give this a big thumbs up. Stay tuned at the end of this video. We got a pretty funny blooper. I totally went blank. Paul went blank, and it's actually really cute, and we wanted to share it with you. We keep it real here. You get to see who we really are. So we ask you to stay well. We ask you to be safe. Remember, we love you truly. And above all, we wish you blessings. Until our next video, we'll see you then. Have a great day. Bye-bye. So here's just some quick freezers. Here are just some quick freezer. What is this called? What am I doing? Freezer.
Food saver, freezer fun.
Come on, seriously, what? What is it called? Freeze.
Storage.
Okay, good.